Hello everyone and welcome to this new introductory video, and I will talk about in this video for A, B, O blood groups. As you know, there are 3 blood groups in the red blood cells, and these are A, B and O, but we will not talk about O, only we'll talk about the 2 blood groups that are A and B, as you see in this picture. They are represented by the antigen A and the antigen B. If the red blood cells is carrying A antigen, then it is from A blood group. If it carries B antigen, then it's from the B group. And if it has no antigen, it will be presented by called O group or O type of red blood cells. Now let's talk about the alleles. Of course, the red blood cell has alternative antigens, but in the same time those antigens are chosen by and determined through alternative alleles. Which alleles? These alleles, A and B and O alleles, and they are presented on the genetic chromosome on a single genetic locus. If the blood group has for an example, A antigen, then it is a group A red blood cell. And if there is no antigen on the red blood cell, then it is group O blood type. Okay, now if it has again A antigen, then now we will talk about antibodies. Which antibody do you think it will carry this red blood cells? So of course we told you that if it has A antigen, then it would be having a group A blood cell. But if the blood cell has A antigen, then it will carry an antibody B, because always the antigen is opposite of antibody. The antigen for example, if again I will ask you another question, if it has an antigen AB, then what do you think the antibody would be? The answer is there will be no antibody in this case. Let's talk about the donor-recipient relationship when it comes to donation blood between donor and recipient in red blood cells. Of course, sometimes when we mix both blood cells, we will have agglutination. And in this case, that means there is antibody of the recipient or the donor cell of the donor red blood cells to the opposing blood type. And this is not good, of course. So we should have perfect antigen-antibody relationship, so that no antibody will be produced against the antigen of the blood donation type. Now, if you can think of someone having a blood type that he can give to anybody, you call him a universal donor. For example, type AB antigen will be a universal recipient. But type O will be a universal donor because his blood cell will be able to get any or be donated to any recipient because there is no antibody against the O blood type, as the O antigen having no antibody against it. But when it comes to the AB blood type, that's an AB antigen, this is called a universal donor, a universal recipient. He can accept from A, from B, from O in this case because AB antigens will have AB blood type will have no antibody against any other type. Otherwise, the O group will have antibody against A and B, and therefore it only can be donated. When it is donated, the interaction between the O blood type and, for example, an A blood type, the A blood type will have the antibody against B, but the O will have no problem with it, while the O will have antibody against A and B, but it still have no problem because of biology and interaction in the human donation and recipient. Now let's talk about the RH. We have RH in transfusion and RH in organ donation. Meaning of RH is also some group of blood. Some people have Rh positive and some people have Rh negative. When it comes to transfusion, I put the mark correct because when it comes to transfusion, we will take care of the Rh of the recipient and the Rh of the donor. But when it comes to organ donation, we do not care about this because only Rh existing on the red blood cells and does not exist on the organs of the recipient and the donors. So they do not matter in transfusion, but they matter in organ. The opposite is correct. Well, they do not matter in organ donation, but they matter in blood transfusion. As you can see in the drawing, bottom left, RBC in the body organ, they do not exist, but in the red blood cells, the Rh exists. For example, if a woman having a baby and she is having an Rh negative and the baby does have Rh positive, that could cause a problem in the second pregnancy and the third pregnancy. But if the baby having Rh negative, there will be no problem. In this case, it's bad in the second or third pregnancy because the blood of the baby can interact with the blood of the female, causing antibody against Rh positive. In the second pregnancy, these Rh positive antibodies will be activated and cause harmful effects on the baby. And of course that is bad. And of course there is many more things that we haven't mentioned when it comes to blood groups that sometimes go wrong. Therefore we have to be careful when donating blood and receiving it from and to the patient. Because sometimes agglutination happens and many unfortunate stuff causing hemolytic anemia, hemolytic thrombosis and stuff like that. Agglutination, of course, I mentioned before. The only question would be between why, if somebody is giving, for an example, an O blood group to somebody with an A blood group, why there would be no problem? Well, because there is no antibody against O when it comes to A blood group. Therefore, the O will have no harmful effect to the A, and there will be no agglutination. But at the same time, the O blood group, when we donate it to someone, you remember when we said the RBC of the O blood group donation will have the antibody of A and B. So what would happen if we give it to someone having an A RBC? There should be an interaction, and there should be the antibody of the A and B in the donating part, which would have antibodies against A that will break down and make agglutination with the donor or with the recipient that's receiving it from the A blood group. Therefore, antibody against antigen will cause agglutination. But in this case, we do not see that, so don't think about it very carefully as I did now in this few seconds. Just take care and see if it's Rh negative. If it's O, then it is general donor, and if it's positive, if it's AB, then it is general recipient. Therefore, we can give any blood type to AB, and we can give any blood type to Rh positive, but we cannot do the same to Rh negative and to A and B and O. And the same thing, we can give the O to anything, the O group to A, the O group to B, the O group to AB, and the negative to Rh positive. But we cannot do the same the opposite way. Thank you for hearing. I hope you hearing this lecture. I hope you understand and maintain this information when it comes to blood donation and blood group interactions.